You go to work. You get paid. You buy groceries. Gas goes up. Your paycheck doesn't. Rent goes up. Nobody asks you. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you've probably wondered, who's actually making these decisions? Who's turning the dial? Here's the uncomfortable answer. Nobody is. Not one single person. Not one secret room. But that doesn't mean nobody's in control. It just means control is split up between a handful of players, and most people never learn who they are or what they actually do. So let's fix that. Let's go through the real levers of the economy, one at a time. Start with the one most people have heard of, but couldn't explain if you ask them. The Federal Reserve. The Fed is not a government agency, and it's not a private bank either. It's something in between, created in 1913 after a string of financial panics almost took down the entire American banking system. Its main tool is interest rates. When the Fed raises rates, borrowing money gets more expensive. Mortgages cost more. Car loans cost more. Business loans cost more. People spend less, and the economy cools down. When the Fed lowers rates, the opposite happens. Money gets cheap, people borrow, people spend, the economy heats up.
That single decision, made by 12 people on a committee, ripples into every mortgage, every credit card, every 401k in the country. You never voted for any of them. Most Americans couldn't name a single one. And yet their decisions probably affect your life more directly than almost anything Congress does. But the Fed doesn't work alone. Right next to it sits the U.S. government, and the government has its own lever: spending and taxes. This is called fiscal policy, and it's the flip side of the coin. When the government spends more than it collects in taxes, it runs a deficit, and it borrows the difference by selling debt. As of 2026, the U.S. national debt sits well over $35 trillion. That debt has to be paid back with interest, and that interest payment is now one of the largest items in the entire federal budget. Bigger than defense, bigger than education. So who holds all that debt? Investors, pension funds, foreign governments, ordinary people through savings bonds. Every dollar of interest paid on that debt is a dollar that could have gone somewhere else. That's not a conspiracy. That's just math. But it's math almost nobody explains to you in school. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because underneath the Fed and the government, there's a layer of power that's even less visible. Corporations. Think about how few companies actually control what you buy every single day. 4 companies control almost all the beef in America. 2 companies own most of the beer you'll ever drink. A handful of tech companies decide what you see online, what gets recommended to you, what gets buried. This is called market concentration, and economists have been tracking it for decades. When an industry gets dominated by just a few players, those players get to set prices closer to what benefits them, not what pure competition would produce. You've felt this. You've noticed that shrinking a bag of chips instead of raising the price. Economists call that shrinkflation. It's not your imagination. Companies have openly discussed it on earnings calls. Because when you have less competition, you can get away with it. But before you think it's just a few CEOs pulling strings, here's the twist. Shareholders often have more power than the CEO does. Publicly traded companies answer to their shareholders. And today, 3 asset management firms, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, together hold significant ownership stakes in a huge share of the S&P 500. Not because they're plotting anything, because millions of ordinary people put their retirement savings into index funds, and those funds pool that money together. Your 401k might literally be part of the reason certain companies behave the way they do. You're not outside this system. You're inside it, whether you meant to be or not. So far, we've covered central banks, government, and corporations. But there's a fourth force, and it's the one people underestimate the most. You. Consumers collectively are enormous. Consumer spending makes up roughly 70% of the entire U.S. economy.
That means when millions of people decide to spend less, or panic buy toilet paper, or suddenly switch from one brand to another because of a viral video, the entire economy feels it. No boardroom planned that. No central bank ordered it. It just happens because humans move in patterns, and those patterns are powerful enough to shake markets.
This is the part that breaks the simple story of a few people control everything. Because sometimes the biggest mover isn't a person at all. It's a crowd, acting without even realizing it's acting together.
And it's not just spending habits, it's confidence. Economists track something called consumer confidence because it's a real, measurable force. Surveys ask ordinary people how they feel about the future. And when confidence drops, people stop making big purchases. They delay buying a house. They put off upgrading a car. They keep more cash sitting still instead of moving it around. And when enough people do that at the same time, businesses sell less, they hire less, and the slowdown becomes real, even if nothing actually changed except how people felt. Fear itself can move an economy. So can optimism. That's a strange kind of power because it doesn't belong to any institution. It belongs to the mood of millions of people at once.
Now let's zoom out even further, because the economy isn't just national anymore. It's global. A chip shortage in Taiwan can stall car factories in Michigan. A war affecting wheat exports can raise the price of bread in a country that grows almost none of its own wheat. A shipping blockage in one canal can delay goods on the other side of the planet for weeks. The global economy is a web of dependencies so tangled that no single government fully controls its own prices anymore. Everyone is connected to everyone else's decisions, whether they like it or not. And then there's the newest layer, the one nobody had to deal with a generation ago: algorithms. Stock trades today are increasingly executed by automated systems, reacting to price changes in milliseconds, faster than any human could blink. Pricing on things you buy online can shift based on demand, location, even the device you're using. Decisions that used to be made by a person in a room are now made by code, reacting to more code. Nobody fully sees the whole picture anymore, not even the people who built the systems.
There's a name for this: high-frequency trading. These systems can place and cancel thousands of orders in the blink of an eye, hunting for tiny price differences that only exist for a fraction of a second. On a normal day, this barely gets noticed. But every so often, something breaks. In 2010, U.S. markets experienced what's now called the flash crash, when the Dow Jones dropped almost 1,000 points in minutes, then recovered almost as fast, all before most human traders even realized what was happening. Nobody planned that crash. No villain caused it on purpose. It was algorithms reacting to algorithms at a speed no human brain could follow, let alone control. So who really controls the economy? Central banks control the cost of money. Governments control spending, taxes, and debt. Corporations control supply, pricing, and what gets produced. Shareholders, many of them ordinary people through retirement accounts, influence how those corporations behave. Consumers, moving together without any coordination, shift entire markets by simply changing their habits. And increasingly, algorithms execute decisions faster than any human institution ever could.
There's no single hand on the wheel. There's dozens of hands, some human, some institutional, some now literally made of code, all pulling in different directions at once. Sometimes they align, and the economy grows. Sometimes they clash, and you get a recession, or inflation, or a crash nobody saw coming. Here's the part that's genuinely useful to understand. Because the system is distributed like this, it also means individual choices actually matter more than people assume. Where you put your savings, what you choose to buy, and from who. Whether you understand what an interest rate hike actually means for your mortgage before it happens. None of that gives you control over the whole system, but it does mean you're not just a passenger either. You're one of the millions of small forces that, added together, decide which direction the economy leans next.
So the next time gas prices jump or your grocery bill creeps up again, you'll know it's not one villain flipping a switch somewhere. It's the Fed, the government, a handful of corporations, millions of shareholders, billions of consumers, and an ocean of algorithms, all pushing at once. Nobody controls the economy. Everybody does, just not equally and not on purpose.